Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Get Off My Lawn podcast. It's Thursday night. It's 8 o'clock. We're back at the right time, and all is right in the world, except for all the stuff that's wrong with the world, and we'll get to all that later. But it's going to be a fun show. I've got some of the usual suspects. Some of the very unusual suspects have joined us. Even a newcomer. We get to break in a brand new guest tonight, so that's going to be fun. So real quick, I've got a few things that I want to mention, like always, before we get going here. And before I forget, let me come over here to the Twitter side and repin the correct episode here to the top. There we go. Pin back over here where we belong. I can't do it until after I get going live here, so that's why you guys always get to see me do that part. We are out there on YouTube and Facebook, and we're also on the Twitter feed, although there's not a special link. You just go to the Twitter profile and catch that. If you're out there watching, please drop those comments. I did find out last week that if you comment on Twitter, it doesn't pop up on the little tab that I've got a message or a comment. So I may or may not be able to get to those, but if you're on Facebook or YouTube, then put those comments out there. They will show up on, we can put them on the screen if we need to, questions for the group, things like that. And if you need to catch us after this is no longer live, then you can always leave a comment down below on any of the three platforms, or you can reach out directly at NE Sandhills Media. That is NE for Nebraska, NE Sandhills Media at Gmail. So .com for those of you that didn't know that part. Couple other things that we want to mention real quick. We are a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network, and there's some really great shows over there. I tell you what, if you're into freedom or firearms or anything that's actually cool like that stuff, you need to go over there, check it out. sdrn.us. Very, very proud to be listed among the awesome shows that are over there. Whoops. Okay. And then let me pull that off the screen. Real quick here, we're going to bring our esteemed panel in. Before I do, I started doing this last week on episode 106. I should have started doing this on episode 1 in hindsight, but better late than never. So the disclaimer at the bottom of the screen for those of you not watching on a video version: the views and opinions expressed on this podcast belong to the individual expressing them, do not reflect the views of any of our sponsors or each other. And we are not here to offer any legal advice, no medical advice. We're not doctors. We're not lawyers. Even if I ever get a doctor or a lawyer, this show is not here to give you legal or medical advice. Kind of feel if we ever talk about the bug, the coronavirus, the one, I've got to say that so YouTube doesn't kick us off of here. So real quick here, let's bring everybody in. First and foremost, we've got our fully semi-official co-host, Defense Dad's in the house. What's up, sir? Stuff is up.
Yeah.
Welcome. Glad you're with us tonight.
Got my new toy today.
Did you?
Yeah.
It's something you can show me, right? Oh, it's the gimbal for the phone.
The gimbal, yeah.
Does that say ho hum? Is it just ho hum?
Ho him.
Oh, okay. Close enough. Alrighty. Can't wait to see you shoot some videos from that. And before we're done, not right now, but when we wrap up, I want you to let everybody know about the new channel that you just started too. So stay tuned to the end, kids, because there's some cool stuff coming up that you're going to want to know about. So there we go. All right. Normally when I've got a brand new guest, we kind of save the new one, the best for last, but being chivalrous, we're going to bring the new guest in first because she's a lady. And so we have got coming straight from USCCA, and let me get this right, it's Pacifiers and Peacemakers. We've got Beth Alcazar in the house.
It's awesome to be here with you guys. I mean, all the rumors, I'm going to see if they're true or not, right? We're going to see what happens.
Okay, this is what I warn when I give a warning about this show and these people. Some of whom you know, some of whom you don't. Here's the thing. There are two kinds of stories going around about us. Some of them are true and some of them are good. but the true ones aren't real good, and the good ones aren't real true.
Oh wow, yeah, profound. I will see if that's actually going to happen tonight. I've got bets going.
Oh, have you?
No,
Okay.
not really.
All right. Good to know. All right. Also joining us, we've got coming to us from Houston, Texas right now, sporting the wrong shirt. This is not Charlie from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. This is Paul Lathrop. You may know him from Polite Society podcast or the deputy director for new media at Second Amendment Foundation, because a cool guy has to have a cool title if he's going to work for a cool organization. And he does. What's up, sir?
Just living the dream, man. Living the dream.
They
pay me to go do cool things, and this is part of that.
Man, just wondering if you ever hear of any spots opening up at SAF where they want to pay another
second to know
person. Appreciate you. Thanks for joining us. All right. We've got also coming to us from Polite Society podcast fame. We've got Mr. Slow Facts and Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast himself, Rob Morse. How are you?
I'm great.
Good.
Thank you. Look at what an interesting crew to talk with tonight. Thank you for inviting me.
You betcha. Well, if we're going to have an interesting... Don't worry about me, kids. I just have a podcast. I can't talk.
Interesting. It's close enough.
It's not important.
Move out.
Yeah.
Spit it out, John.
Unique and mind-bending, thought-provoking, interesting. If you're going to have an interesting group and an interesting subject, we've got to have an interesting, or some more interesting people in the group, is what I was going to say. So thank you. Don't worry about me. I'll figure it out. That's why I have other people that know things. So when the host has a vapor lock in the brain, then you guys can take over.
The drugs will kick in any minute now, I'm told.
That's probably the issue. No drugs and limited caffeine, although I've got it with me. So they're not a sponsor. Mountain Dew, Pepsi Cola, if you would like to sponsor the show, please reach out. We do go out live every week to tens of people. This is the best show that no one's watching.
Everybody's got their drink now.
Yeah, right. Drink break. All right. Last but certainly not least,
Paul has my favorite. Sorry.
It's okay. Don't worry. Also from the capital city of Lincoln, Nebraska, everybody's favorite tactical teacher. And just so you know, we have Lincoln's 2 most eligible bachelors on this podcast. Not Paul, not Rob, not Beth, and not me. Not naming names. But that would be Defense Dad and Travis P11. How are you, sir?
So if you look in the top right corner, that's me before, and this is me after. Just so you guys know, there's Defense Dad, and so we're actually the same person, but no, just mess with you. I feel like Captain Product Placement here tonight. There's all this stuff behind me. There's a reason for it, so we'll talk about that later. But no, man, appreciate the invite. It's going to be a good chat tonight, and who you contribute to and what that money actually does is a big discussion. And no matter what we say tonight, we're going to tick off people on both sides that support certain groups or against certain groups. There's no happy medium for this one, so don't take it personal, people.
I think so.
Yeah.
Oops, hold on here. I had that.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, you know what? Here's the thing. We don't intentionally try to stir people up and make people mad, but we do intentionally try to make people think. So before we get into this, I've got a couple things that I want to go over real quick. First, before I forget, tonight's show is brought on multiple platforms because of our sponsors. And let me get over here. Tonight's show is brought to us by Decoding Firearms, an easy-to-read guide on general gun safety and use. Decoding Firearms is a comprehensive guide to aid new shooters and veterans alike to get up to speed on the safe use of guns. With over 115 illustrations and 266 pages of content, this book is very comprehensive. If you're interested in learning more about Decoding Firearms, you can visit johnpetrolino.com/decoding-firearms or just johnpetrolino.com. It's on the screen. If you're not watching this on YouTube or Facebook, you should be, then you could see this stuff. Decoding Firearms is available for sale on Amazon as a paperback or a full color Kindle version. Be sure to pick up a few copies for your friends and family members that want to get into the shooting world. Uh-oh, where'd it go? It was right here. Okay, my copy's gone. Not sure where it went to. It's normally right behind. Oh, it's right here. See, this is how organized I am. There, that's what it looks like. The paperback, cool black and white photos. If you like color photos, get the Kindle version. Get yours today. And those of us that know John Petrolino, he's a super cool guy. Writes some really, really, really good articles over there at Bearing Arms. So you need to go check him out too. All right. Having said all that, quick disclaimer. The tragedy that happened in Uvalde, Texas, is not why I'm having this topic tonight. That was actually picked before that animal went into that school. This is not about that particular instance. This is not necessarily even about keeping our children safe or keeping criminals out of gun-free zones. When I titled this one Doing Something, what I actually have in mind is we all want to help. We all, well, maybe not all of us. If you're out there listening and you value your freedom, you value your right to keep and bear arms, and you value exercising that, you should want to help, because that right doesn't stay around if we don't fight for it. And I'm not talking about a shooting war. I'm not talking about throwing hands or firing bullets. I'm talking about just public awareness, fighting things in Congress, in the state capitals, in the courts, things like that. Not everybody is a lawyer. Not everybody is a great speaker. Not everybody knows how to start up an organization. And like Dianna Muller, who began the DC Project as a group of, she wanted one lady from each state to go once a year to Washington and just go in and speak to the Congress critters in there. And it's an awesome idea, because as she said many times, the ladies that go in there break every stereotype of the fat old white guy in a flannel shirt with a beard and a gun, right? Anyway, but it's an awesome idea. The problem is, not all of us know how to do such a thing and organize such a thing, have the time, the skills, the money needed to do such a thing. And that's good, because we don't want to flood the market with too much of a good thing. What I'd rather do is see more people support the things that are already out there. So this conversation is going to be about ways that you can do something, grand gestures or tiny little things that mean more than you'll ever realize they mean. It might be starting up a new group. If you've got a niche for that group, I'm sorry, Trump Jr., but I'm curious what he's going to bring to the table that's not already being brought to the table. And I'm not going to disparage him if he's got something unique that's not being done right now. Power to him, and hopefully people will support that. If he's going to be another one of, we already have some of these groups, then, I don't know if that's necessary. I would much rather see Donald Jr. endorse the groups that are already out there fighting for our rights. Not that big one that I'm not going to name their name. They may have an annual members meeting this weekend in Houston. But anyway, a lot of us aren't very pleased with the mismanagement of their members' money, which used to be my money. And so, but there are so many groups out there that are doing things, whether it's filing lawsuits, it's going to Congress in Washington and testifying, lobbying for good bills, or lobbying to kill the bad ones. Maybe it's in state capitals. Maybe it's somebody that's going to a school board meeting. That all these things, that's what I want to talk about tonight. Because if somebody's out there saying, hey, I don't want to lose my guns, but I don't know what to do. I sent $10 off to this organization. I sent a check for $20 over to that organization. Have I done my part? Is that it? Is that all there is to do? I mean, I'm helping, right? Well, it's not a bad start. The other thing that I've said this for several weeks now, but I don't want to have everybody wait to be called upon. You don't have to raise your hand. I'm not going to go around the horn and necessarily call on each of you. I want this to be just a conversation. Just picture we're all sitting around the same table drinking our coffees or beverages of choice, or we're sitting around a campfire. So it's just a conversation. We're all polite enough that we can work on not walking on each other. So having said that, things that, you know, I want to help. I don't know where to start. What can I do? Go.
How much time do you have to offer?
That's a
No,
great
no, because
question.
that's
That's
what
a
I want
great
you. That's
first
the way I
question.
want you to think of it. It's not, oh, here's $20.
Mhm.
Okay, that's okay. You've paid a couple people who are panhandling on the corner. That's something you donate in church. Can you donate 2 hours a week?
Mhm.
Because if you can become an essential player to the politicians in your area.
Absolutely.
And then if you're wearing your I support the right to keep and bear arms t-shirt, you don't need to be a brilliant writer. They'll know who to go to when they have a question.
Mhm.
Anybody else got an idea?
I think you need to see what resources are out there locally, what groups are out there locally. I'm thinking of, NFOA, Nebraska Farms Owners Association, being a local chapter. Everything starts on the grassroots level. So started by joining that group. I'll research the group, look into it. If they've got a Facebook group, join that group, start to educate yourself, become part of the conversation. So act locally to start off, because that's going to take the least amount of your resources, and then go from there. I mean, groups like NFOA, they're non-for-profit. There's no cost to join. So if people just open their eyes a little bit and just see what's out there, and then if you got the time and the resources, become active in those groups.
I forgot that there are people who live hundreds of miles from anybody else. So what I suggested might not work in that case. On the other hand, maybe not, because you can phone bank year round.
Yeah, cell phones for a very long time have been call anywhere in the United States, no long distance. So you can call anybody, and yeah, exactly. One concern I have, I love NFOA and I love what you guys are doing. I worry that somebody joins a Facebook group, somebody joins NFOA for free, and they think, oh, I made a difference, and they stop.
Yeah.
Oh,
Folks,
dude.
to do something for free, that's great. That's a start, and that's all it is a start.
Well, and let me talk about NFOA. Those of you that don't know, I am a board member. So I'm going to pull the curtain back just a little bit, and I'm not going to give away any trade secrets, but here's what happens. We have currently 7 members on the board, although one of them is going to be taking a work promotion out of state. So we're going to have a spot to fill through the summer, and then the term ends this year anyway. Elections are this fall for the board members again. But 7 people on the board, and maybe a dozen that we can count on consistently to help us out when we need volunteers at different events to show up at the Capitol, things like that. We've got almost 10,000 members, and we've got over 30,000 on Facebook that follow our page. But out of 10,000 verified members, I've got 24 people that we can count on to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now I'm not complaining, because that's one of the things that we've talked about as the board that we're addressing, and trying to find ways to become more, and not only have people engage more, but we could be more, I don't know the right word for this, engageable. I don't know if that's the right word or if that is a word, but if it's not, it is now. I made it.
Yep.
Put my brand on it. But we're working on making it to where people can engage more and better with us. But I talk to so many people where I come from, which is 5 hours from Omaha, that don't even know there's a Nebraska Firearms Owners Association in existence. And so we're working on changing that. It's not going to happen overnight, but we're working on it. So that's the first thing is, if there's an organization in your state that is a state level, or maybe, local chapter of something that's bigger, how do you know if you haven't even looked? Because so many times those advertisements, if there is an advertising budget, they don't go very far. And we all know how social media likes to shadow ban. So you've got to start by just deciding you're going to maybe You don't even have to get off the couch. Pick up your smartphone and just go out there and do a search for, gun rights groups near me and see who's even out there that you can contact. Because again, we're not asking for, well, I would love to have somebody like a George Soros or a Michael Bloomberg on our side, right? A Daddy Warbucks to finance our side. But that you don't have to be that. More often than not, they would, whatever group is near you, would appreciate your effort just as much, if not more, than your cash. Although the cash is important to keep going, but the effort reaches so much more.
Well, let's amplify that. I made a joke of someone like you, John, who's, you're not in the middle of a metropolitan area. There are not large groups around you that you can join. That's either a problem or, boy, does that put you in the driver's seat, because if your local group, your state group wants an activist in your area and you raise your hand, guess who comes right to the head of the list? Beth, have you seen that?
Well, it's interesting just listening to what you're saying about your organization there. We've got Bama Carry here in Alabama, and it's a lot of the same thing over and over again. It seems like it's like a pattern and everybody follows it, which in some ways is disheartening, because you're like, surely there's more people in this state that are pro 2A that would take some action, that would do something. But honestly, it usually boils down to those few and far between, that the busy people, give them something to do because they'll actually get it done. But it's okay. It's okay, because those busy people have made a difference. For example, here in Alabama for 10 years now, we were trying desperately to get constitutional carry, permitless carry, working with the different leadership, and of course working with our representatives, and just trying to make sure that people are informed. And I think honestly that's one of the biggest problems, is that people don't have the information that they need. They don't know where to find it. They're certainly not getting it from the media. They're not necessarily going to find it on social media either. So it's just keeping people who want the Second Amendment protected informed about what their legislators and their representatives are actually up to. And I think we were able to really push that so hard that our membership, and probably just a core group, made those phone calls, contacted the representatives, so much so I think they were just tired of us. They were like, look, we can't deal with these Bama Carry people anymore. Let's just give them what they want. Let's just pass this thing through. We're tired of listening to their whiny, want, need, personal right and protection. They were so sick of it, they finally gave in. But that's a win. I'll take that. And now we're kind of looking at each other.
Florida, are you listening?
Yes, Florida, you're next. Now we're sitting here going, okay, let's keep the momentum. And that's also hard, because when you finally get a victory, everyone's like, yeah, and you let your guard down, and that's not a good thing. So there's so many things here that are just very similar stories, just repeated in a different location, no matter how big it is. And I just want to encourage people not to give up and look for those local organizations, because that's where you could be making the biggest difference. I mean, John, I'm so glad you mentioned the DC Project. I'm the Alabama State Director for DC Project, but
Miss Alabama,
where's my stash? But I'm going to tell you, that is intimidating. Going to Washington, D.C. and walking into the doors of these representatives, some of them absolutely hate your guts, hate what you stand for, don't want to listen to you, and won't even show up for the meetings. They just send all their aides and their assistants.
right?
And you just kind of feel the weight of this vast, murky ocean that Washington, D.C. is. It's just this horrible, awful place. And I've likened it to being a pebble you don't throw a pebble in the ocean and make much of a difference. You're not going to see much of an effect. And that's honestly how Beth Alcazar, how I personally feel in Washington, D.C. But
you don't make an effect with one pebble.
Right. But also I can throw my pebbles in the puddles over here in Alabama, and I'm making some big differences. And that's what I have to constantly remind myself. But yes, together our pebbles can make a big difference in that vast, murky ocean. But also my little singular pebble, if I throw it plop over here in a puddle, they're noticing that ripple effect is happening.
I've never thought about it that way. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's just it's the way my brain works. But I've found confidence through that now.
Henceforth, Beth will be known as Pebbles.
Pebbles.
Pebbles Alcazar. I like it.
Beth
Bama Bulls.
Bama.
Bama
Oh yeah,
Pebbles.
Pebbles from Bam Bam.
Bama Carey just sounds kind of cool though. You know, it just flows well. You know, Bama Carey. You know.
Okay.
Well, but Beth, you're not a pebble with the DC project because, boy, I've actually spoken to a Congress critter, and having a buddy who's been there before, all of a sudden,
Yeah.
you feel twice as better and you're 3 times as smart.
Yes.
So,
And oh
yeah.
my gosh, the ladies that are part of the DC project are the most phenomenal group of advocates I have ever had the honor and pleasure to be part of. They inspire me and fill my cup over and over again. And you know, we try to use each other as resources, and it's amazing what these ladies are getting accomplished through Dianna and her vision. So more stuff like that, more support.
What energizes me anytime I see any of you ladies, with whether it's a newly produced video that like the one that just dropped earlier in the week, or you know, anytime I see videos or pictures from anytime you've gotten together, what energizes me about DC Project, probably more than any other group of, you know, any gender, is that you not only work toward a same goal, you support each other so well. You love each other so much. You're such a diverse group of ladies, and yet everybody gets along, and everybody supports each other, and
Yeah.
that is, I don't know if that's a testament to the people who have stepped up to become this, or I like to think there's a little divine intervention with any of the successes that any of these groups have. But I mean, it's just, if anybody wants to see a great example of, you know, what you should strive your organization to get to, just go to the DC Project's YouTube page and watch any of either the produced videos. What I like are the candid videos, though.
Yeah.
Where, you know, the outtakes or things like that, where we get to see, you know, the lady that's not always the one in front of the camera, but you know, and I'm not saying that, how do I say this? How do I dig out of this hole I'm about to dig into? None of these ladies are not genuine. It's the same lady when the camera's off than when the camera's on. But I mean, when you're doing a you know, professionally shot video, then obviously you have to portray one thing, but to just see the outtakes and the people get flustered and have to retake, you know, reshoot, do it again, that's probably my favorite thing I've ever watched over there. It's awesome.
Good to
It's
know.
so cool. Makes me feel like I'm not the only one that ever flubs my line or something.
Oh, dude.
Except for I do this live. I don't get redos, so it's the only way to go. Bless you. Beautiful producer over there in the producer's chair had a sneeze. I don't know if the microphone picked that up. I don't just randomly bless people without. I should.
You should. Yeah, you
Well,
should.
why don't you
Thank
just
you,
randomly
John.
walk
Thank
around
you.
blessing
Thank you,
people?
John. Thanks.
Thank you, John.
Father.
I thought you were talking to me.
Yeah, I was like, thank you, Father
Bless you,
John.
Rob.
Yes.
Bless all y'all.
Friar
I know-
John. Yeah.
I know things about all of you. Me too.
Peace be with you as well. Yes.
Let's see
Yeah.
here. What was Gerald saying? Oh, in Georgia, where'd that go to? The hardhead rep got flooded with thousands of texts and calls in Georgia. So that's awesome. Very, very cool. Knives says California Gun Rights Foundation is a great one. So yeah, out there in the chat, I'm not necessarily going to put them all up on screen, but if there's a local group in your area, or more than one, local, national, state, whatever, throw those out there in the chat. The live chat is available on replay when people go back through and watch the YouTube video after the fact, and of course the Facebook comments are too. So put those out there and people can go back through and see, just if it's not something that's obvious like Bama Carry or Florida Carry, you know, if it's got a different name, maybe mention where that group is if it's not easy to tell from the name. But that would be awesome. Here's a new, I've not seen this username out there. Jumping Jack 1775 wants to know suggestions for local groups in Maine. You guys are better plugged in than I am. Anybody know a Maine group?
I'd call Andy Reardon and start there.
There we go.
Well, and something interesting to consider, and this is kind of one of my random little tactics, but I mean, if you're already a part of your state group, that's awesome. If you're not, that's also fine. Here's a weird piece of advice. Find your local Everytown Moms Demand Action group and sign up for their emails. That's a really good way to stay informed because they love to say what terrible things gun owners are doing. But what's also interesting is they'll have local get-togethers at libraries, or they'll put together these little meetings or seminars. One a couple of years ago was something about, I guess they brought in a professional speaker, and they were trying to help people improve and polish their skills for telling their personal stories. And I'm like, these are all really great ideas that we need to be capitalizing on. So
I wish we had, Daddy
So try
Bloomberg
that.
money to pay
That's
for
true.
some of this.
That's true. But steal their ideas is what I'm saying. Just go figure out what they're up to. It's great to know what their strategy is so that we can either counter it or do better on our own. So we've done that with DC Project too, because we want to, counter the red shirt folks with the true faces of the Second Amendment. But that's my own little secret that it gets aggravating to read those emails, but it's a good thing it's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Another one to consider doing, and this is just to kind of, again, just hear the other viewpoint. I've got Patriot 125 and XM in my car. Sirius, get the liberal talk radio as the next channel. So if you get tired of one side, go listen to the other and see what's their ammo that they're throwing against us. What is their strategy? What is their viewpoint? It's amazing the difference in viewpoints between two human beings on a topic. It's like, because I mean, I'm not saying do it to support them or whatnot, but just learn what is their thought process. What is it that makes them tick? What are their arguments, and how do you argue against it?
Yes.
You gotta know your opponent.
Whenever this topic gets brought up, it makes me think. And just quick backstory: what I do for my main job is I work in a cell phone store, and I've been doing it for about 12 years. Back when BlackBerries were popular, I started. The reason why BlackBerry tanked is because they apparently didn't understand business. They tried too little, too late. They fired half of their upper management. They fired their CEO. I believe they even hired 2 people to take over as CEO and run the company together. Nice, Travis. You would have 2 of those just laying around there.
Can I get a refund on these? Do these have some kind of trade-in value? I mean, they were awesome at the time.
But here's what happened: that corporate shakeup took over, or happened about. Let me think here. Androids came to my company in 2010, so probably around 2012, something like this. iPhone had been a thing for a while. Android had taken off and was up and running. And nobody in BlackBerry's upper management had ever used either. They had no idea what they were up against. So they never progressed.
Wow.
That's a surefire way to run a business directly into the ground, is to not know your competition, right?
Yes.
So that's why I said that, is because if you are a staunch 2A supporter, and you get, to hear I support the Second Amendment, but is akin to nails on a chalkboard for you, like it is for, I'm sure, all 6 of us, then you owe it to yourself and honestly all of us to know where your opponents are coming from. And we've talked about this lots and lots here on this show. I'm not saying that you need to go make friends with anti-gun people, but it'll go a lot farther if you at least acknowledge that they are people and try to find somebody just to sit down, establish some common ground, let them see you as a human being and that you see them as a human being, then join that debate. Because it's really easy for people to shout at each other. It's really easy, especially online, for people to put in all caps and shout at each other.
I need to interrupt because we're about to get real noisy in here.
Are you about to get raided?
Yeah, it's about to get real noisy. Matter of fact, I can hear I don't know if my microphone's picking it up, but I can hear footsteps on the stairs outside. We're about to get 3 people coming in here.
Paul's sharing a Airbnb with some of the other hooligans that we know in our circle down there in Houston. So you're going to be signing off real quick. If people want to find more of what you do, where can they find you, Paul?
go to Polite Society Podcast on either YouTube or Facebook or thegunmag.com. That's where all my writing goes, is to thegunmag.com.
And real quick, for those of you that don't know Paul, if you have seen the video of Gun Rights Policy Conference or AmCon, that doesn't happen without Paul. So thank you very much for all of the work that you do for our rights and for SAF. And also, I don't know if I should say this or not, but I'm going to out you. Paul is one of the newest USCCA certified instructors, along with his bride, Susan.
Yeah, Susan and I, 2 weeks ago this week, got certified.
Which proves that, just like me, you are certifiable.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, just 2 weeks ago we have not done our first class yet. We got certified on Tuesday. On Saturday. We got certified. On Tuesday we left to go to Atlanta, and this is the continuation of that road trip. We're now in Houston for the NRA annual meetings. I'll be reporting on those. And then finally, Sunday night, Monday morning, we get to go home and I get to think about starting to teach.
Nice. So if you're in the Sioux Falls area, there are some really awesome people who are new instructors, and you need to look them up. And you can find them on uscca.com. Just look for instructors near me, put in your Sioux Falls zip code, and there you go.
Absolutely.
Paul, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you. Go get some rest and say hi to the gang for us.
Thanks, John.
All right. And Paul is out of there. All right. So before Paul's roommates came home tonight and interrupted him, I forgot where we were. But
John.
Yeah.
No matter how hard I try, I'm not going to be the polished speaker and presenter that Beth is. I mean, no, Beth, you were an educator. You stood in classrooms in front of people for years. You've forgotten more than I know about engaging small groups. So, and you talk about it at AmCon. Thank you. Under the surface, my little feet are paddling as fast as they can. I'm trying to catch up. But okay, you still feel passionate about the Second Amendment. Remember what it was like to learn. Do you have an old 22 rifle you could donate to either a 4-H troop or a Boy Scout troop? Maybe your local gun range has a youth program and they have a particular model. It's not the one you have. You know, if you want to invest $100, you could help change the next generation's attitude toward firearms. There's lots of ways other than adding to Wayne LaPierre's retirement fund.
Yeah. Speaking of Beth teaching classes, just saying.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks.
Got my first one scheduled for next Tuesday night.
Awesome. I can't wait to hear about that.
I'll be sure and let you know if I fall flat on my face or not.
Well,
luckily,
give me a call then.
Luckily, the curriculum is awesome. I'm more excited to teach that, and I'm not just saying that because you're here and you're tougher than me, but I'm honestly more. Well, I can't say bigger than me because I mean,
well, yeah, that's rude. That's terrible. Say that to a woman.
I know how tall you are, and I'm not that tall. So
yeah, okay.
No,
this is a tough group, Beth. We told them.
No, John, just make sure your safety's on before you fall. Okay.
Oh man, dude, you were always going to show me where that safety is on my Glock, and I still haven't had a chance to figure that one out yet. So it's on there though. Oh, there we go.
I just want to say, well, we got a little bit like this. Tonight's a subject that I struggle with because due to my job and my schedule, as you and I have talked before, like my availability is not there I work every weekend. I work 10 to 7 almost every day. So the times when like you can get down and volunteer and do things when they have the big organizational things, I don't have the opportunity to do. Mm-hmm. So short of, making call campaigns when stuff's going on, I struggle with finding things that make me feel like I'm actually contributing. Mm-hmm. So, and it's just with the way my job is. I'm in, like John, I'm in retail. I also work for a company that's not all that fond of 2A stuff, so I can't really ask time off for that sort of thing. So it's a constant struggle. I feel like I'm not doing my part a lot of times, and I look for different ways to contribute at least something.
Well, Dee Dee, do you repost articles on social media?
I do.
Thank you.
Not as much as I probably should.
Not yours, really,
Well,
Rob.
you know-
He reposts others.
What?
Everyone
John?
but you.
What?
What I really should do, I don't have
Everyone-
like on Facebook. I don't have a Defense Dad page yet. I should. So I don't.
Amen.
A lot of stuff. I try not to get in Facebook jail a lot for stuff because I want to stay on there. So I should create a channel or a page just for my channel so I can do more of that stuff.
Well, but even I'm thinking of your personal channel in the sense that, and Beth was talking about it. You've all talked about it. If you're not focused on these issues, you don't know what you don't know. You've forgotten more than they know, and you just go, "Hey, did you know this common known fact that we save millions of lives a year?" And they go, "Really?"
I try to run a balance between it because I don't want to get stuck in kicked
Jail?
off of the
Right.
that kind of stuff. I have been. I got kicked off for 30 days once.
One thing that if you do start a Defense Dad page, set it up to where you don't log in from the same device that you log into your normal page, and set it up on a different email.
Yeah.
And I know that because I tried when I was in Facebook jail a few weeks back to make a new profile, and that lasted for almost 24 hours before Facebook figured out that, hey, it's same phone, it's got to be the same guy. And so that one was in jail too. I mean, not so much in jail. I could see I felt like what's the guy from the Highlander series, Joe the Watcher? I could observe but never interfere. I couldn't I couldn't post, I couldn't share, none of that, but I could still observe. I could see everything that was going on. And my unfortunate luck was I got put into a 30-day Facebook jail ban during the time that I most needed to be active on the NFOA page. And if you're blocked, you're blocked everywhere across the board. I'm not saying that me being able to field comments and post stuff on NFOA would have made a difference, but I just felt like I was benched during Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals when we were trying to get constitutional carry passed here in Nebraska. And, I did what I could from the bench. I just couldn't do anything on the actual page. And, even as far as putting up live videos and calls to action and things like that, unfortunately, our president, Trish Harold, who incidentally is the instructor who certified Paul and Susan to become instructors, she's got so much on her plate. She was overwhelmed as it was. I am the director of media. It was my job to do this stuff. She did as much as she could for me, but at the end of the day, we're human beings, and even she's a mom. She's got a full-time job and a part-time job, plus her instructor business, plus the NFOA stuff, plus being a full-time mom, plus building a house and all this kind of stuff. I mean, what could we expect out of one person? And again, it goes back to we've got a need for people to step up and volunteer, but that doesn't always mean a big thing. Defense Dad, the things that you do, they help more than you know. I've always said, I would give about anything for just 100 people across my state who we could consistently count on to make these phone calls. If any one of these state senators got 100 phone calls from different people across the state, I mean, it would knock their socks off because they don't get that.
Yeah.
I was hearing from one of our state senators, assistants or aides there in the office, that was talking about here a couple of years ago, a huge property tax bill was coming through. And in Nebraska, I mean, our property taxes are some of the worst in the union. When property tax bills come through, that's one of the biggest deals that we get. I mean, it's on people's radar. This bill was coming through, and these senators were getting phone calls from, I think they said, gosh, the one senator's office got 20 calls. I'm not kidding. 1.5 million people in the state. 20 people picked up the phone to call that senator and ask him to either support it or block it. I don't remember which. But if we could get 100 calls to 48 out of 49 senators, which was what I was asking for, we don't need to call the guy that submitted the bill. He's on board, trust me. But the other 48, either ask him to support it or thank him for supporting it, whichever is the case. If some of these senators that were kind of on the fence got 100 calls saying thank you for supporting it and just got that encouragement to stay strong, what would have happened?
Yeah,
we missed it by 2.
I think a lot of times
33 votes to get it to the final reading in the unicameral. We had 31.
It's unfortunate. I think the opposition is much more organized than we are.
They are.
Kind of what Beth said earlier.
Yeah.
Well, what I've said time and time again, the opposition, they don't have any problem having what I would call the brass and then the grunts. And they have so many people that are willing to follow orders and do what they're told.
Or get paid to do it.
Or they're getting paid to do it. Right. Versus our side, we don't want anybody telling us what to do. I will do it my way. That's the nature of us. That's how we're wired, right? That's why we're patriots. That's why we're freedom-loving people. Don't tell me what to do. Leave me alone. Get out of my life. Let me live it.
Well, but wait a minute. Leave me alone, but I want to be effective.
Well, but right. But that's how we're wired. We don't want people telling us what to do. Everybody wants to call the shots. Give the orders. Nobody wants to follow them.
There you go. There, and that was my point. And you've all seen it. Chiefs are easy to find. On the other hand, that means if you're going to volunteer to be an Indian, you go to the head of the line.
Yeah.
And they're okay. I'm going to pick on you, John. You're in Facebook jail. You still have relatives. They still have kids. Those kids probably still need an introduction to basic firearm safety. And, a new nephew, a new girlfriend, a new blah, blah, blah. All those social networks that you have that don't involve electronics, as in flesh and blood. Why haven't you invited your nephew's girlfriend to the range yet? So
right. No, that's exactly right.
Yeah. And now that you're an instructor, there's no excuse. Get on it, John. I'll expect a report tomorrow.
All right. Rob says I've got to start doing pro bono work, guys.
You gotta. Well, and something else to consider, we've all now discussed it. We're busy. Our plates are full. The people we know are busy. Their plates are full. And a lot of us have multiple jobs as far as, not only might we be a spouse or a parent and a coworker and whatever, and an advocate. That's a lot. It's a lot of things to do. And it does feel like that's too much sometimes. But what's really awesome is even in the little things, there's majesty and simplicity, right? And even in the little things, you can make such a huge difference. And perfect example is just being the responsible gun owner that other people can see in their lives as gun owners. Because think about how many people out there don't know who has a gun, and maybe their stereotype is in their mind, like, the flannel wearing older white guy that you mentioned earlier. Maybe maybe that's the gun owner that's in their mind, and they don't know any other gun owners personally, and they're not anti-gun. They're just kind of those in-between people that don't have much of an opinion. Think about how much you can positively affect those people by being a responsibly armed human being. And you never know where they're watching, when they're watching, or how they're picking up on all this information. Because, and again, here's my example. My son, probably about 3 years ago, he was just a little guy. One of the moms from his school was visiting one of the kids and having lunch or visiting the class or whatever was going on. And she was having a conversation with my son thinking, so what does your mom do for a living? Is she a stay-at-home mom? And my son was like, no. And so she kind of pressed for information. Well, what does she do? And Side note, I've never had this conversation specifically with my kids. Like, here's what to say if people ask what mommy does. I've never had this conversation. But my son looked at her and he goes, she teaches people how to be safe with guns.
Darn right.
Yeah, that's
Thank you,
exactly
dear.
what I do. And imagine that now. He has started this or planted this seed with somebody who now is going, oh, wow, there's a gun owner in our midst. And it's a normal, everyday, responsible, kind-hearted human being who has a child in the same class as my son or whatever the case may be. So it's in those tiny little moments, people watching you, looking at you, knowing that you are a gun owner. You don't even have to do anything. You don't have to teach a class. You don't have to lead a seminar. You're just living your life as a responsible person, as a law-abiding person, as a good person. And you might be changing hearts and changing minds because now the stereotype is being replaced by you. So that's really cool to know that this is what we live your life, a good life in front of other people. And hopefully you'll be the gun owner they think of whenever they hear about it. And who knows? Maybe they'll start voting for people who are pro-gun, or maybe they'll start getting interested, because it's really crazy to me how many people, when they find out what I do at a grocery store or, at a school event, I'll say, well, yeah, as my son likes to say, I teach people how to be safe with guns. 90% of the time, they're like, I would love to learn. There you go. You just
that's awesome.
Planted the seeds. Keep planting seeds.
Well, and don't we have a record number of people who've bought a gun and are looking for answers? How do they? The great news is we've got.
One hopes they're looking for those answers.
Well, okay, and we're going to remind them they need to. We got 4 centuries of experience, and they don't have it on board yet.
Right.
There she is, Beth Alcazar. Go. We'll give you her personal number. Just contact us. She'll take care of everything.
What is up?
Beth. Hey, Crumpy's in the house.
Look at that.
You made it.
Yeah, I made it. Had a little bit of an issue. Basically, I hate Google Maps, and I had Google Maps on instead of Waze, which I had to download Waze, and Google Maps took me into DC, where it said I had like 3 hours left to go, which was, whatever. And then it told me I was at my destination. So apparently I time warped. And
cool.
Yeah. Well,
where's that wormhole? I would like to take one of those, please.
Well, guess what? I wasn't at my destination. So had to pull over and download Waze because it kept on taking me to really weird places. So it took me a lot longer to get here than if I would have just paid attention.
So, yep. Well, we're glad you made it home, and we're glad that you made it here.
Well,
so
I don't know if from home to my second home.
Glad that you made it there, and we're glad you made it here. So we're just sitting around talking about ways that people can do something, and I'm not talking about the latest tragedy, which I lost track of time. It's not even been 72 hours yet, right? I'm like Paul. I like to give it the 72 before I talk much about it because of how much info comes out during those first 3 days. But it's not about doing something to stop that happening or protect the kids. We'd have a whole night's worth of conversation just about how stupid it is that we don't protect our kids better. But anyway, we're just sitting around, John, talking about if somebody wants to do something and they don't know what to do because they don't know about GOA or VC. What is it? Is it VCDL?
VCDL.
They don't know that there is a VCDL or something like that. But people want to help, and then they thought, well, I sent my $10 off to to FPC. Have I done my part? So we're just kind of talking about if people want to help, want to be in the fight, don't know how to do grand gestures, that's not necessary. It's the small gestures from lots of grand people that really make the difference. And so
what makes the difference more than anything is to actually get politically involved and contact your congressmen, senators, or whatever, put pressure on the politicians, because the politicians, what they want to do is get reelected.
Mhm.
And if they think they're not going to get reelected by voting on a certain issue, they're not going to vote that way on the issue. They're going to vote on the way that's going to get them reelected. The other side is very, very good at being politically active, and we need to be politically active as well.
Yeah. Nope, that's very true too. The thing is, we need to try and find enough people, because that one person calling the senator's office, the representative's office, is just a pest. And you can be a pest, but that one voice isn't going to help. But when we get a few hundred, a few thousand people calling that office that all say the same thing, well, now all of a sudden that representative or that senator realizes, oh my gosh, the people in my district, the people in my state, they care about this topic. This is a hot button, and I therefore by proxy care too if I want to keep my job.
Hopefully. Yeah, right.
Well, and John, the way I've phrased it to friends is, did you go on Facebook today? They go, yeah, a couple of times. I go, okay, so you had enough time to call this state rep for the bill we're doing. You missed it today. Would you do it tomorrow? And they go, yeah, I guess I do have time.
Yeah, it's not a long phone call. I mean, you'd never get the actual elected official. You get somebody in their office,
which is all you want,
which is all you need, because they have to write that interaction down and give it to the representative or the senator or the alderman or the board member, whatever it is, right? So yeah, exactly.
I talked to someone and I said, well, how many emails or calls do you need to get before you actually pay attention? And they're like 10. It's like 10.
There you go.
Like,
yeah, because
dude,
10
I got enough for.
Yeah, we were just talking about that earlier, that it happened in Nebraska a few years ago, where one of the hot buttons in my state is property tax, and a bill came through regarding property tax, and one of the senator's office aides said, yeah, it was, we got a huge response. There was like 12 people called in or 20 people called in or something like that. That's an unheard of number of calls on an issue.
Yeah, and
so
it's really weird. I call on like every issue, so
they know your name.
Yeah, they know that. I'm sure they do. But I originally I thought everyone was just as politically active. I was kind of naive about it. This is years ago. But then I realized not everyone's politically active.
Hey, John, there's something I've meant to do. In my town, there are a number of politicians that basically have the same receptionist.
Okay.
She's got different phones, but she keeps a tally for a number of different politicians. I've meant to go meet that lady, because if there's a person that I should go buy lunch, she's it. I understand if you're 5 hours from her, it's harder.
Sure.
But some of us might have that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take much just to take a single day off of work. I know it might not be, maybe not everyone can do that, but I mean, if you can, you really need to.
No, and that's the thing is, I'm not saying that nobody in my state is willing to come to the Capitol. We've got awesome people who drive from the Panhandle down to Lincoln on Gun Bill Day. That the Judiciary Committee typically hears the bills pertaining to firearms in Nebraska, and they're nice enough to group them all into one day of hearings so that the people that travel can do it in one day. And we consistently get folks from out in the Panhandle, out where Steph Schaefer, also she's our DC project rep, Miss Nebraska, and she's clear out in the Panhandle of Nebraska, and people from that area will drive the 7 hours, whatever it is, one way to Lincoln to testify, and then maybe stay over or drive home that night. We get a handful, one or two, but we get them. We've got people willing to do that. But when it comes to, we hear in a floor debate from some of our less freedom-minded state senators, and of course we're different in Nebraska. We're supposed to be nonpartisan. But we hear that, well, we're just not hearing that the state of Nebraska wants this. All we're hearing about is that the police will, they oppose it. Well, that's trackable. If we could get 1,000 Nebraskans to call that senator's office and say, please vote for this, please support this. Well, they can't claim that they're not hearing from Nebraskans, right? I mean, it may not be their constituents in their district, but we hear time and time again that when a bill makes it to the floor debate, they represent all Nebraskans. Each one of them, all 49 of them represent all Nebraskans at that point. And so if that's the case, then put your money where your mouth is and support this bill, because more Nebraskans than not want this. But squeaky wheel, grease, we need to get more wheels to squeak. That's what it comes down to.
Am I lagging here?
Yeah, you're kind of freezing. Your voice is coming through okay.
All right.
It's hard to tell when you're going to start talking because it's not matching up. So, yeah.
Actually, John, it shows you as a much younger man. I would stick with it.
All right, I'll be right back.
Okay.
Hey, John, what we used to do is if you sent an email, we'd say, hey, copy the local group just so that we know you sent it.
Oh, sure.
And what was amazing is if people said no one is telling us that we should vote this one a bill. Wow.
That is a great idea.
Because all of a sudden you go, now you have a press release and they look really, really bad.
Mm-hmm. That is amazing. I don't have my notepad, but hopefully I can get my beautiful producer to jot a note down to start doing that when we have calls to action. If you're going to send an email, please carbon copy NFOA. That would be awesome. No, now, I love that idea. That's great.
Fills up your inbox with spam, but all right.
It's not spam though. It's ammo. It's filling my quiver with arrows is what it's doing.
Ooh, look at him. See what he did there, Beth?
Yes.
It's good for more than just holding this hat, guys. I'm just saying. But no, that's just it. Is there are things that people can do, and I say time and time again, you don't have to have a lot of time to give. Well, he'll be back in a second. Camera's logging in. There it is. All right, there he is.
All right, seems like, is this better?
Yeah.
So far.
Don't fix it.
But
there's something was eating up CPU cycles. I wasn't really sure what it was.
It was your background. That wallpaper puts a heavy tax on your video at the same time, and that can cause a delay. The brick wall you had behind you, that actually slows everything down.
Oh, hold on. I'm doing it.
I learned that during Zoom.
Yeah, I mean, right now it shouldn't do it.
Now it's better. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was I shut down the background. I run like Brave, which is a different browser. I'm gonna get rid of because I think that was eating up a huge number of cycles.
There you go. Alrighty. So, what about this one? Because this is one that I consistently bring up, and I know that again I'm from a part of the world where things are maybe not quite as progressive, and if you think of Mayberry, you're really not that far off. Although our deputies are much better equipped and trained, and they don't actually have to carry their bullet in their pocket. But aside from that, I mean, small town, you walk down the street, you say hi to everybody because you know them all, right? That's where I came from. And so the coffee shop is still a thing where I come from. Yeah. And I mean, the communities, everybody knows each other. People get together every day, same time, drink coffee together. And so sitting around the table at the coffee shop, talking about whatever has come up, whatever, gossip or headline or whatever it is, the topics run a wide gamut every day in those coffee shops. But if somebody's willing to bring up the fact that, there's this bill coming out and it's a great deal, or there's this bill coming out and it's terrible, and here's why, You know, if you're willing just to have this discussion at the coffee shop, and the 4, 5, 10 people that were sitting around drinking coffee with you then go home and mull it over, and then when they see stuff on the news later, then they know they're better prepared to know what they think about it. And that's half of our issue, I think. Just overall, people, as Crumpy found out, people don't want to be political. In fact, think of the
easier
people
not to be.
Yeah, think of the people you interact with every day, and I bet I would be right if I said 9 out of 10 of them would tell you, if you asked them about politics, that they like to stay out of it. They don't even want to get into politics. They don't like politics. They're not political, right? We all know.
Well, you know, I
maybe not the ones you interact with, John, but
I kind of like work for GOA and AmmoLand and stuff. So
when you're the people you interact with when you're off duty,
I'm never off duty.
Well, wait a minute. The two Johns, you're a perfect example, and I bet Beth, you've had this experience. In fact, I talk. There was was it a career day at school?
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, you're an expert. I mean,
yeah,
everybody wants to be an expert, but in our local groups, whether it's church, business, civic group, sports group, you're the guy who's kept up on a subject. And it might be hunting, it might be firearms instruction, it might be legislation that we need to monitor. I'm never going to appear on the network news, but to a bunch of people, you're an expert.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One of the other things about where I live at, I spend time in Delaware, like about 10% in New York, 10% in Delaware, and 80% in Northern Virginia. So I'm kind of like on like a different type of area than most people, because everyone is political.
Right.
But when I talk to people like my cousins or my friends from like other parts of the country, it's totally different. Or when I go to Delaware, it's like no one up here cares about politics. Even when I go to New York, I mean, it's more people care about politics there than in Delaware. But in Northern Virginia, politics. It's the only place where you can like run into like a senator or something, or a congressman in the store. So everyone works for the government or works for a congressman or senator. So and you know, growing up, I live in the same area where I lived in, and it's like 30 minutes outside DC. And growing up, when I was a kid, it was a small town and no one cared about politics. And that swamp just kind of kept on going out. And now it's all the way to the West Virginia border. So I think I'm going to go to freaking like Montana or somewhere.
Not to Nebraska. We got plenty of room.
On Nebraska. All right.
Travis, shush. Don't tell that to everybody, or we won't. Crumpy's okay.
Good point.
We tell him
we don't want to be the next Texas, right?
Off the air. Okay. Our official travel slogan is Nebraska. It's not for everyone.
That's so true. It is.
I wish I made that up. It's true.
It's a flyover state. Keep flying over.
Please,
that's right. Keep going over. We don't need you.
We love to have you visit, spend those tourist dollars, and then.
And you can just buy our beef. That's all you need to know about us.
As long as you don't California my Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hey, John, you know, we're talking about people not wanting to get involved and you know, lack of activity and participation. Just look at the voting numbers in general.
Yeah.
How many people show up to actually vote on a bill? Look at your local voting numbers. You know, you're lucky if you can get 20% of your population to show up at the polls. And there's no surprise that people don't want to participate because they're apathetic every day anyway.
If you really want to get alarmed, look at the demographics. Look at the voter registrations, and you know the under 25 years old crowd, and see which party has the most registered voters age 25 and under. If you really want to get alarmed and see who is registering to vote and who's turning up to vote, I mean, these are our future people here, our future leaders here. There are the other side is so good at getting people registered to vote, getting people to vote. They're so good, they get people who aren't even alive anymore
Live to
get up
vote.
and vote.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And then there's
But-
us 5 libertarians. Woohoo!
That notwithstanding, I mean, they really are good. I mean, but they've been doing this for years, you know, MTV Rock the Vote. Well, let me tell you, that's not a conservative rally,
Right.
you know.
No, it was all Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton,
Yep.
the rock star.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
I remember that because it was on
Playing the
MTV when I was in high
saxophone.
school.
Yep.
It was in high school, you know.
Yeah.
And that was all the only thing that was on TV. He was the one getting interviewed in the town hall meetings. I didn't even know who he was running against. I had no idea until I went to the polls. I had no clue because it didn't show him, you know.
Yeah, he would always play the saxophone and the harmonica.
But up, pop.
I wish I had my soundboard.
Wow.
We'll edit that out in post production, John. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, there's no post-production. Post-production is I download this and then I share it to Anchor and it distributes it out to all the audio sites. In fact, if you're into the not video, if you're into the audio only podcast, we are available wherever podcasts are found. Whatever your platform is, you can find us there. We're just a week old consistently because we don't go out live there. This episode will drop next Thursday at 5:00 Central Time on those podcast sites. So no, that's just it though. Is if you want to do something, how about this? You don't have to be political. You don't even have to know much about politics. But a side effect of this will be you're going to know about politics. But encourage these young people to not only to register to vote, which they have to do, you know, selective service, all this too, right? If they want to vote, they're going to have to. I just said it backwards, but you know, Selective Service Act. If they want to be able to vote, they're going to register for the draft and all this. Encourage them to go ahead and register to vote, but don't tell them how to vote. Teach them how to think.
Yes.
Encourage them to think, to ask questions, because Lord knows the schools aren't going to do it. We've gone away from teaching people how to think in favor of telling them what to think.
Yes.
I disagree, John, but you know, I have my own personal feelings on that.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah. You know, and whenever I will say this as an educator
Okay,
myself,
let
whenever
me
the
say-
question comes up,
Let me back that up, Travis. The young people who are turning 18, graduating high school, going off to college are so much more bombarded by what to think instead of how to think.
Oh, I don't disagree with you on that.
Leaving high school out, not just to be diplomatic, but in all honesty, high schools aren't as bad yet as post-secondary education. But still, we see, and of course, we see the outliers, right? Those make the news, the libs of TikTok and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I get it. We've talked about that
we're
before.
told to not. It's not our place to express our political opinion in the classroom. We can teach kids how to find information and how to think critically, but it's not my place to tell you what you should feel, how you should feel about abortion or immigration. That's not. First of all, what I host for my class is not that kind of environment.
I mean, you know, in all honesty, it's not even your place to tell your students how you feel about it.
So when those things happen, it makes me mad because that's not how. And we've already discussed this before. That's not what the protocol is for being
than the animal that walked into the school the other day in Uvalde, right? When those things happen, we get so upset because that's not us. That's not how we are, right? And so I don't know if it's the same level of upset, but I can at least understand how you can get upset, Travis.
Yeah.
When that happens, because again, don't tar every teacher with that brush. Don't tar every gun owner.
You're going to get the extreme examples of everything on TV, and then people just will toss that on the whole group. Just like when us responsible gun owners get pointed out as being baby killers or murderers because we support the Second Amendment, but I had nothing to do with the decision that person made, and I've never encouraged that kind of behavior. So why am I now guilty?
Yeah.
I will say we put our kids in private school because I live in Loudoun County, Virginia.
Yeah.
Which is on the news a lot.
So many.
Because they're all crazy.
I'm starting to see this trend. I hear of more and more people who lean conservative taking their kids out of public school, putting them into private school or homeschooling, depending on what finances allow.
But
now, I
it's
predict we're going to see that trend. We're going to see a shift to where public schools become more and more liberal based, private schools become more and more conservative based, because that's what the push is going to be. And so I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd like to see both private and public schools be fair and balanced, but we both know that's too much to ask. But I just, as many people are pulling their kids out of public school, I'm thinking the private school is going to turn to be, the conservative way to go, or what conservatives end up doing, or homeschool.
Well, and as somebody myself who went to a private school for 7 through 12, my parents sent me to a Catholic school.
Mhm.
Conservative values, pro-life, whatnot. Those are value. Those attitudes and opinions are expressed in those classrooms, and I can just say that myself as somebody who. And so, I mean, I can understand how those ideas agree with people of a certain background or belief system, sending those kids to be in that environment. That's not understandable. I mean, would I want my kid to go to a pro 2A school or an anti-gun school? What would I want? Well, pro 2A, obviously, but I'm just saying that, So I don't disagree with you on that.
And I think that a lot of that depends on where you live, what school district you're in, because for example,
it's a 180.
Well, yeah, I grew up in a much smaller town in Nebraska than I live in now, and also like when they had the student elections at my daughter's school, like overwhelmingly, the current administration won the student election, but we're also in one of the most liberal cities in this state. So a lot of it depends on your location, how
depends on the school, because it was different results in the high schools, and I'm just gonna say it was interesting how schools, and that could have
it was something like 80%. It was something like 80% of her school voted for the current president.
Yeah. There is a teacher that teaches out at the high school near my house, and she was recorded talking about the Second Amendment, and she was like, the Supreme Court said the Second Amendment is an individual right, but they're wrong. And tell how they're wrong. It's like, that's the Supreme Court.
What was the subject area she was teaching? How do these people get away with this? If what's that?
The Supreme Court gets it wrong sometimes.
The Constitution, and she was saying, well, the Supreme Court's wrong. It only applies to the Army and stuff like that. And it's just like, what?
No, that's stuff like that is what makes me mad.
Luckily, we're going to go off the Supreme Court's ruling and not that teacher's ruling. But I mean, I think the Supreme Court got it wrong when they decided Roe. I think it should have remained a state issue, and luckily now that's coming back to the forefront, right? And people are going back through, digging out the archives, seeing that even Ruth Bader Ginsburg said that it was decided incorrectly at the time, and now they have a chance to revisit it, right? Because another case has been brought to them that they can rule that may upset the entire apple cart. But I can think that the Supreme Court got it wrong back in, 1973. Doesn't change the fact that it's, my opinion doesn't change the law, but that teacher's allowed to say that. I draw the line at teaching the students that, though.
Yeah, I can tell you firsthand, if my daughter came home from school and told me one of her teachers said that, I guarantee my ex-wife would have to step in between me and that teacher verbally at the next parent-teachers conference.
Absolutely,
because I don't take to that stuff.
No, that's where the line was crossed. It's not having the opinion; it's teaching the opinion.
Well, okay, let's. Did I have a senior moment? Did we talk about inviting a teacher to the range?
No, we didn't. But let's talk about that. Go ahead.
There is a National Train the Teacher Day. In fact, I just saw it re-promoted after the attack in Uvalde.
Yeah.
They're thinking we need more armed staff. And I'm just saying any exposure is great. So, you're not a training counselor like Beth. You just are comfortable around firearms and want teachers to have this exposure so that they understand that these devices don't go off and kill people at random.
We fear that which we don't understand, right? And most people don't understand firearms.
Yep.
We've got roughly 120 million gun owners. That's less than half of the country. So still, most people don't own them. Maybe somebody that understands them doesn't own one. But for the most part, I'm going to say that, still most people that I know don't understand firearms. Even the ones that shoot them sometimes don't understand them, and they've never had formal training, like Beth says, on how to be safe with it.
Yep.
Right. Or what they've had was, hunter's education, and that was it. which is still good because you get the same 4 rules of gun safety no matter what class you take, whether it's hunters or handgun or whatever it is. They apply universally. But aside from that, not everybody understands what PSI or CUP are when it comes to chamber pressure, or even what chamber pressure is, or why you shouldn't put 308 Winchester ammunition in something chambered for 7.62 NATO, right? People don't know that. They should if they're going to fire the thing, but that's stuff that people don't know, right?
Okay,
And
so you're going to go back and take a review class, and you invite a teacher who isn't familiar with this world, but they're familiar with you. Maybe they had one of your kids, now they've got another. You've seen them for a number of years. Hey, I'm going to go take this. Would you take it with me?
That'd be awesome. Maybe I'm cynical.
And in Travis' case, if I say, I understand that times are tough, I'll bring ammo, I'll own them forever.
I have no ammo. If you want to bring it along, that'd be great.
That's earmarked for something else.
Budgets are low these days, and
No, but honestly,
no, it's true though. Yeah.
Travis, are you trying to get Rob to take you shooting?
Maybe, I don't know. If he's buying,
That's right.
Can I get some gas money too? No. Is there mileage on this one? Yeah.
I'll even buy you dinner, Rob. It's fine if you're paying for ammo. I'll buy you steak. It'll be fine. No, but that's just it. What I'm curious about, and this is me being my cynical self, is I don't know that teachers are different than any other group. I've talked to a few people in my personal life who say that, they're not anti-gun, but they don't like guns. They don't understand guns. I've invited them to go shoot in a, controlled, safe, responsible way, just so that they can get a better understanding of how the thing works, why it does, what happens. I've had no takers. Now that's just me. And I'm not talking about, hundreds of people or even tens of people. I've talked to a handful, but I still had 0% take that. So how many teachers who already aren't, how do I say this? Not pro-gun, but at least gun neutral. How many teachers that are going to take me up on that? That's no reason not to ask.
John, here's a trick I learned. You're never an expert in your own hometown.
Yeah, so a prophet gets no respect in his hometown, right?
There, thank you. See, could you say that in Greek, and then we'd know it was true. So what
do you speak Greek?
It'd be Greek to me.
Then I can say that. Yeah, I can say it in Greek.
Then you can say it in Greek. So the magic and the way I phrased it was deliberate. Oh, I'm going to take a teacher to go with me to a class. We're going to go to that class together. We're going to go see Beth, right? And all of a sudden, oh, she's an expert. She's from out of town. Brings a briefcase. Poof, instant expert.
Right. Oh, if you want to be an instant expert, I've learned this one from personal experience. Start up a YouTube channel and a Facebook page with the same name as your YouTube channel, and people just assume that I know things. And those of you that know me obviously know that I don't know things, but I act like I know things. And so that's all it takes, right? Confidence. I don't even have to be right. I just have to be sure. And people will believe what I say. It's weird.
Fake it until you make it.
Right. But I mean, that's something that's easy for me because I am in retail like Defense Dad is. And I'm also, I do so many things that no matter what I do, I'm talking to the public and or performing for the public. No matter which job I'm working at, I'm either presenting or performing or both. And so that's just part of it, right? Is I don't have to know what I'm doing. I just have to make it look like I know what I'm doing. So when it comes down to legislation, when it comes down to being a firearms instructor, now these are things that I can only fake for so long before I just completely fall on my face, right? I mean, we still have to know what we're actually talking about. But no, people somehow think that just because I put my face and my voice out there that I must know stuff. Well, I'm here to tell you that I'm not going to make stuff up. What I tell you is either things that I know or things that I believe to be true. But not everybody out here in cyber world is like me. And so, and not to pat myself on the back, but there are so many people out there that are going to tell you wrong, and they may 100% believe what they're telling you to. That's why it's so important to have so many different sources. Check and verify and recheck. Don't do the fact checker from Facebook thing, but do real fact checks.
Yeah, the fact checkers from Facebook is why I lost my original Facebook.
Fast, I know a guy with some slow ones, and he's got some great facts as well. So
yeah, the fact checkers from Facebook is why I got my first Facebook banned.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun, isn't it? Which has since been proven to be a subjective opinion.
Well, I got them to back off, and I got them to admit that they were wrong, and I got them to admit that they let the French government determine what was right and wrong during the election cycle, and because I did that, they banned me for life.
Wow.
You said something they didn't like, John. Let's yeah, I get it.
Yeah, exactly. It happens.
Well, and a sidebar to this too that I think is really important. We just got through finishing a training counselor course, and we're trying to challenge these upper level instructors who are teaching teachers to really think and really use their brain. So I was saying something like, hey, if it's been a while or you've never looked at logical fallacy, now is the time to really brush up on your skills. And I had so many puzzled faces looking at me like, what is that? And I thought, oh my gosh, it's just we're really doing all of these schools a disservice by not continuing this critical thinking and continuing this discussion that, there are people out there who will try to guide you in the wrong way or their way and fool you with what they're saying is fact or information. So, I mean, even those listening right now, go and brush up on logical fallacies, because right now it's everywhere. And it's amazing to see, especially coming from media and a school of journalism kind of, thought and background with ethics and things, to see how much it's changed and the fact that logical fallacy is the norm.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So brush up, everybody. Go look at your, appeal to hypocrisy and your circular reasoning and false dilemma and ad hominem and straw man and all those red herring, all those fun things. And, be well versed enough that maybe you don't know the right term, but you do recognize when something is wrong and it's just not quite working.
Well, let me throw this one out there too. If you want to do something and maybe you don't know what else to do, and this applies universally, whether it's Second Amendment or anything in life, if you are raising a small human, or even a not that small human anymore, but if you raise humans, then teach them how to critically think.
Yes.
Teach them how to ask questions. Please don't shut them down when they ask questions. Please entertain those. I know they get tedious, and I'm not even a parent, and I get fed up when I borrow a kid every now and then. But teach them how to think. Teach them how to think critically. Teach them how to question things.
Yeah.
And teach them that it is okay to question things that have been universally accepted. Because if people didn't question things that were universally accepted, we would still be the center of the universe. The earth would still be flat, right? I mean, we wouldn't have incandescent bulbs or internet, right? I mean, we wouldn't have a cure for polio. None of that. If everybody just believed what used to be universally accepted, we'd still be treating COVID with leeches.
Well, I teach my kids to question everything, and sometimes it does come back to bite me. But, like my 8-year-old the other day was talking back to me, so I was like, "Do this." He's like, "Why?" It's like, "Because I said so." He's like, "But why?" I said, "Stop asking why." He's like, "But you told me to question everything," and I was like, "I guess you got me there."
Teachable moment. It's time to teach authority and how Dad's authority over you.
Like, question everything but me.
Never question Dad or Mom, but question everything else in the world.
That's a bumper sticker right there, man.
I've got a question for Beth. I think the Latin is argumentum ad baculum, which means it's like the argument when you ask Dad, "Do it or I'll smack you." And is there the 45 and Glock equivalent of that?
I don't know. That's a really good question. I'm going to have to figure out if there is.
Is it, wouldn't that be argumentum ad smaculum?
Hey.
Then? Do it or I'll smack you.
The 230 jacketed hollow point argument. Yeah, I understand. Right. The teaching self-defense, we use it all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Well, my beautiful producer is telling me that time is running out and we need to wrap things up. So, real quick here, we're going to do a couple things. First off, let's do this. Let me go back over here. And again, we can't go live on multiple platforms without our awesome sponsors. So tonight we were brought to you on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter by Decoding Firearms, an easy-to-read guide on general gun safety and use. Decoding Firearms is a comprehensive guide to aid new shooters and veterans alike to get up to speed on the safe use of guns. With over 115 illustrations and 266 pages of content, this book is very comprehensive. If you're interested in learning more about Decoding Firearms, you can visit johnpetrolino.com. Decoding Firearms is available for sale on Amazon as a paperback or a full color Kindle version. Be sure to pick up a few copies for your friends and family members that want to get into the shooting world. Decoding Firearms. Get yours today. And if you don't have the book and you want to learn how to be safe with firearms, you can always talk to Beth because she does that for a living. Teaches people to be safe with firearms. So
What my kids say.
Right? All right. Real quick here. We're just going to give everybody a chance to give any closing thoughts and then any shameless plugs. So we'll go back around the horn, and when we're done with that, then we'll let you two Lincoln fellas wrap up with what Thunder on the Prairie is, and that's coming up. And the rest of you, if you want to hang out and talk to us after we stop the live broadcast, you're welcome to hang out. If you got a jet, we get that too. So Crumpy, we'll start with you. Any final thoughts that you wanted to get out? And then where can people find more of you?
They can find me on Amaland, John Crump News on YouTube, or John Crump Live, which I do my live show Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern. And I just want to encourage everyone to go to standwithjsd.com and donate if you can to help the JSD Legal Fund. JSD is fighting for our rights right now. If you guys don't know what's going on, JSD received a cease and desist because they sell P80 kits and parts, not at the same time. So they said, since you sell both on the website, you're selling firearms, so you can't sell anything. So basically try to shut down the company. So they have sued, and they are going through legal battles right now. So any help would be appreciated. And that's standwithjsd.com. Jordan Vinro, who's the owner of JSD Supply, is a awesome guy who I can tell stories about, just different wonderful things that he have done. But yeah, he is a great supporter of the Second Amendment, and he needs our help right now.
And that cease and desist came directly from the AFT, did it not?
It did come from the AFT. It did.
Yeah, the alcohol, firearms, and the thing.
The thing.
Yeah, and they've hit a couple other companies like Cam Tactical and stuff with the cease and desist for selling P80s, not parts, just selling a P80. ATF bought a P80, and they said this is a firearm. It's like, no, it's not. It's
No, it's not.
You have opinion letter saying it's not, but they served them with the cease and desist anyway.
Yeah.
There's a couple other companies that want to remain anonymous. They got hit. So, yeah.
It is not right that the administration should be able to weaponize those bureaus.
Yep. All right. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much for joining us. We were glad to have you along for the ride. Travis, we'll move over to you. Final thoughts, and where can people find you?
Yeah, just, any amount of activity that you can have for the cause is good activity. It's a good starting place. Again, look local, think local, and then after that, take it as far as you possibly can. And if you want change, you got to be part of the change. That's what it comes down to. Get active. So, and then just cheap plugs. Check out my YouTube channel, Travis P11. And then, Shane, you want to help me out on this one? We got Thunder on the Prairie happening a week from Saturday, which is a kind of a gathering of YouTube channels. And what's going to happen? Shane, go ahead.
Hold on. Let me give everybody else a chance to wrap it up, and then we'll have you guys talk about that.
Okay, no, I'm sorry. I thought that was the same, okay. But no, otherwise, good discussion this evening. A lot of great points. And again, if you gotta be part of the change, man, it can happen on its own.
All right. And Travis, thank you very much for joining me, joining us. Rob, we'll move over to you. Final thoughts. Where can people find Rob Morse?
I just want to reiterate that if you want people to listen to you, all you have to do is volunteer to do a little bit of work, and you can go right to the head of the line. You've heard that over and over tonight.
Yeah.
I host the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. I get to co-host with Paul Lathrop and others on the Polite Society podcast. My blog is at slowfacts.wordpress.com. From there, my writing is picked up at Amaland, and where I get to write the weekly Armed Citizens column.
Awesome. Thank you very much for all your help.
Amaland's a great site.
Amaland is a great site. Just for the record, Rob, how many articles did you write while you were sitting with us tonight?
Only 2.
Only 2? Rob sits down for 10 minutes and there's 20 articles published on his website. And these aren't 1-paragraph articles. No, very, very cool stuff. Thanks for joining us, Rob.
Thanks,
All right, Beth, we'll move over to you. Any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Yeah, I'll start with where people can find me. First, since I mentioned DC Project and we got to talk about it a little, go to dcproject.info if you want to learn more about what we do or who might be already involved in your state that you can reach out to. Of course, I have to marry the USCCA. I love them, but not that much. USCCA is...
Somebody beat them to it.
Yeah, usconcealedcarry.com is where we are currently for our website. You can find all sorts of great info about training. If, like you mentioned earlier, you can just type in your zip code or whatnot if you're looking for classes in your area, or if you're just looking for really great resources. There's tons of them. Speaking of resources, people could find me on Facebook. It's Pacifiers and Peacemakers with Beth Alcazar. I pretty much just list things I'm up to, events that I'm part of, or other random thoughts that come to my head. So some of those same things are repeated on Instagram with Beth619. Not really all that exciting, but I just want to sum it all up again by just mentioning to everybody that, don't be afraid of being that pebble in a puddle, because you truly can make a small difference in a small area that just has that awesome ripple effect and touches other things and reaches other people and maybe does just exponentially more than you ever thought it could. So don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid to get started, and don't think that it's not enough, because it truly is.
Right. That's awesome. I love that analogy, and thank you for bringing that to us tonight. And if you joined us late and you didn't hear the thing about the pebbles, you need to go back and watch the whole episode, because it's in there. All right, Defense Dad, we will let you wrap up, and then you can move right into Thunder on the Prairie when you're done there, if you'd like to.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me. I think it was a good discussion tonight. Just something that people don't talk about enough, I think.
Yeah.
As far as where you can find me, is Defense Dad on YouTube, on Instagram, Defense Dad 1, and that's about it. And there's the cat.
Yay!
You started up a new channel on YouTube. You want to tell us?
I did. Yeah, it's not gun related at all. It's more of a weekly vlog. There's only one video on there right now. It's called My Life. Just kind of a way for me to get out of the house and get back into life after, the world's opening back up after COVID. We're not stuck at home anymore.
There you go. That's awesome. And then, so June 4th, Thunder on the Prairie. What's that about?
So there's about 16 people registered so far, several channels. It was just, you and Travis and I were out to dinner one night, and I was like, hey, what do you guys think about having a get together for other YouTubers? And it just kind of snowballed from there. So we're having it at a small range south of Lincoln here at Nebraska Shooters. I think total of 16 people, but I think about 7 or 8 channels total coming. And just gonna have the range for a whole day. We're free to film, meet each other in person. If you want to come, you can go to Nebraska Shooters. It's not solely related to people that have YouTube gun channels. However, like Travis has been saying, you're welcome to come and sign up. It's a $25 fee for the range per person that day, but it's not going to be just a regular range day. We're going to be You'll probably have to wait in line while people are filming and shooting and that sort of stuff. We've got quite a few factory sponsors lined up, which I think Travis was going to talk about, and overall, just going to have a good day. And there's a lot of us who have never really met in person, even though we're on shows together week after week after week. So just going to be a fun time.
Yep. I've got a lot of friends who have never actually met face to face. Slowly but surely that number is changing, and I get to meet more and more of them. But yeah, you two were once in that case, and Beth is that right now. So one day I'll get to meet you.
One day.
Travis has some of the swag for the event sitting behind him.
Yeah, we got a ton of sponsors on board, and Defense Dad's really put in for all the people that sign up early. VersaCarry is sending them a free holster based off of the firearm that they carry. We've got Blackout Coffee Company is going to keep us fueled for the whole day. They sent me a ton of coffee. That's just one. They sent me a massive box. So we got all kinds of good caffeine that day. We've got Meat Industries based out of Wood River, Nebraska, supplied us with ammunition. I got another box in the other room, so that's cool. I got to go take a factory tour today of their plant, which is amazing, absolutely awesome. And I'm now a convert after seeing what they make. Walk the Talk America, Mike Sedini donated a whole box of swag for us. Monstrum Tactical donated optics. Bear Creek Arsenal donated uppers. And SS Pond is throwing in some legacy SS Pond gear. You know, staying retired, we've got some SS Pond stuff that's going to be, I don't know if we're going to put it in people's bags to let people first come, first serve, or give some of it away. So it's cool that these bigger companies have done a lot to help out smaller channels like us. And I mean, the majority of the channels have got 1,000 subscribers or less, knowing they're not going to get the exposure that, 3 million YouTube channels, sub channels are going to get, but they still support the small content creator. And I think that's awesome. And a lot of these companies didn't put up a fight. They just said, yeah, we'd be happy to send you stuff. But it's a business. They know they're going to get exposure from it, but they could have said no. And they've been great to work with. So it's just cool once you get it. And, so I'm excited. I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot that we have to offer the people that are attending. Some of the shooting contests are going to be kind of fun. Defense Dad said we're going to be shooting for pink slips. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. I guess if you outshoot somebody, you got to lose your gun like too fast.
No, if my daughter outshoots you, she gets to keep your gun.
I'm not going to go against her. I've seen her, man. She's beast mode. I'm not taking her on. No way, man. No, absolutely not. But yeah. And then M. Gabriel made a comment out there that I guess they're looking forward to seeing how many of your guns I can break. Defense Dad, is that?
Man, you happened to be shooting one of my guns 2 years ago that broke, and you'll never live it down.
And you broke it. You bought it. I bought it from him. Give me a break, people.
He did, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's just gonna be a good time. It's gonna be fun. Get a chance. People get, like I said, we haven't turned anybody down that wants to come to. We've invited some bigger channels, and we just kind of want to have our own little range day, just kind of get together and bond and have a good time. So. Yeah.
Cool. Which I keep saying we're not going to make it down there because I have to work. We are hoping to catch supper afterwards, and then we were going to stay over. Now we're going to probably have to head right back home.
Okay.
But I still want to meet some of these people again face to face. So we're going to head down there. All right, real quick, we've got the list over on the Facebook side. I only saw Jamie out there making comments. So Jamie, thanks for joining us and watching us tonight. On the YouTube side, we had Rich White, Kingpin, Patriot in the Dark, Blitz, Defense Dad, Tacos and French Fries, Jumping Jack 1775. Again, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Gerald Krennick was out there. Shut up, Gerald. Those of you that, if you get it, you know. If you don't, that wasn't being a jerk. Travis P11, Mr. Knives, DJ Play Nice, Mike, Ozzy Osbourne, 42 Chilled. I haven't seen that name yet either, so welcome, 42 Chilled. Scott 79, M. Gabriel, and John Crump live were out there in the YouTube chat. So thank you, all of you. If we didn't read your name, it's because you didn't comment and we didn't see you out there. We can't see you if you are on the YouTube side unless you make comments. So make sure you do that. It's better than TV and radio because you can comment and we can actually interact. And it's better than just screaming at Tucker Carlson on the screen or Brian Stelter or whatever. And he can't hear you. He doesn't care about you. We care about you, and we want to know what you say. So come join us live and say it, and we will maybe even get that up on the screen there for you. So thank you everybody for joining us. Tune in next week, same bat time, same bat channel, and it should be on time at the right time again next week. On behalf of Paul Lathrop and Rob Morse and Beth Alcazar, John Crump, Travis P11, Defense Dad, Sandhill Sweetheart, and myself, thank you very much for joining us. God bless you. We love you, but it's time. You need to leave. Get off my lawn.